Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Butterfly Bytes. This year we've been experimenting with some new ideas, and one of the things that we thought about doing was trying events and seeing like what comes of that. So that is where we met our great guest today. I met Eevamaija at the Day-to-Day Texas conference that Chauncey and I went to in Austin earlier this year, like January timeframe. It is so funny because Chauncey was like texting me in the middle of a session telling me like, we got to meet this girl. So we were able to, she was a speaker, so I'll let her talk about like what her topic was and all the things that she's doing. I didn't get to hear it, but maybe next year. But we were able to talk about sort of like training AI and like what's our role with machines and humanity. And so I was really honored to get the opportunity to talk to you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? And you're from Finland, and I know you're a data engineer. So what is this title of like world's I don't know why I keep calling you the world's most famous data engineer. I think I've elevated you past Finland to now you're the world
for me.
There you go.
So hi, I'm Eevamaija, and so I'm a senior data engineer at the moment in a company called Infinity. I'm a co-founder as well. I think the term Finland's most famous data engineer was coined by Zach Wilson. We met in Sydney at the Data Bytes conference, and then it was just, well, obviously Finland is a very small country, and there's not.
Are you
like
the only one? Like
no, that's a joke. Like maybe no, I'm not the only one, but that would be funny though. Finland's only data engineer.
One and only.
Anyway, he said that like somewhere on Blue Sky or something, where he referenced me and said like this is Finland's most famous data engineer. So I took that,
I love it.
As a joke, I put on LinkedIn because I'm a Finn and we're a very humble nation. You're not supposed to brag at all.
Okay. That's cool.
Then I thought like, okay, I can't just put like Finland's most famous data engineer. So I added, you've never heard of.
That's adorable. I love it. I love it.
So then it's like, okay, we actually are in a bubble. Like nobody cares about data engineering except data engineers in the data world. But there's another whole world out there who don't care. And then it's like, if somebody like outside of the data bubble comes to my profile, it's the same like, like the world's famous librarian, it doesn't really matter, like make any, I don't know.
Now you're making me wonder, like, I wonder who's the most, there probably is a famous librarian. There's probably like a list.
I actually thought
that up. You know who's the most famous librarian to me? Jessica Talisman, because she's the only librarian I know.
Yeah, for sure.
We should tell her. We should send her this and we'll tell her we've nominated her as that.
Yes. But I was also like, I love libraries. When I was a kid, I would always go to the library after school.
Yeah.
Just read and read and read. I would borrow books, and I love libraries.
We have one in my town that has a huge area for children that's like kid-sized things that are soft. There's like a little stand for like puppets.
Yeah.
It's imaginative. There's puzzles. We love going there. It's free. Yeah. You just go. It's like safe. I love it.
Yeah. It's very cool.
Yeah. So I did miss your talk. I didn't know you yet. So that's my excuse. What was your talk on at the Day-to-Day Texas?
I think my talk was about bridge skills. I was talking. Yes. So that thinking has like evolved a bit further from January, but like I've given a few other talks as well since that. But I think the message was that, these are infrastructure, these skills that, often go unseen. And also these are skills that are sometimes called soft skills.
Right.
But we are talking about leadership, and things like these are not very soft. And it's actually a military term.
Oh, I remember you posted about that. I was going to respond, but I was like, I kind of like it soft because I'm a mom, and I think soft is like is a good thing. Like that's what my kids say when they hug me or when they snuggle me. Is like, you're so soft, and so I think of it as a good thing.
But also because it's not that simple. It's like systems thinking. That's also something, like it's not just being good with people. I think bridge skills, at least what I'm trying to say, what is like, what does it mean? It's not just soft. It's like actually being able to bridge like organization together, like sort of
Yes.
you build bridges between people, functions, and this is like the future that, we have to break the silos that are still the problem, but I think these are also more systemic problems and structural problems. So I don't want to say it's only the people who have the bridge skills. It's like it's a whole,
Yes.
a
I can tell.
problematic structure.
I can tell a brief story about that that's relevant. So I was on a project recently that was with a new team, and I was in a male dominated environment where I felt very much like I wasn't being given like equal, I don't know, weight in just what I had to say. So I found myself in a boardroom realizing like they're not going to let me talk. So what can I do? Am I just going to sit here? Am I going to look cute? What am I going to do? And I was like, I'm going to listen and I'm going to pay attention to body language. And there was an immense amount of interpersonal stuff I was able to pick up between who was in charge, what was the pecking order, who was the champion, and I was able to pick up all that stuff that I wouldn't have been able to notice if I was gesturing towards my slides and talking and not really being able to notice the nuances. And so when we were looking back and saying like, how can we fix this problem at this company using systems thinking, we were able to see the operational challenges. But when we came in, the team that I was working with was saying like, oh, it's a tool problem. We just got to figure out how to optimize the tool. And I came out of it saying it's actually not a tool problem. They have really great tools. It's these people hate each other. And that's why they're all sabotaging each other. Nobody's listening. People are stabbing each other in the back. That's the problem. So that's what we ended up, like resolving as a consultant. It, obviously in a gentle way. We didn't come in and say like, the reason why you're not effective is because you guys hate each other, because they already knew that. But like systems thinking was a really good way to uncover that, because we could have gotten caught in the weeds of, oh, what language are they using? They should have used this language, or they should have typed it this way. But it really wasn't that was the problem. It was the way the people were interacting together.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more and more you start really solving the problems in organizations, that what comes up is like the power structures and hierarchies which are not the organizational hierarchies. There might be some hidden dynamics, and
Always.
organizational trauma is something that I've also noticed. There is like emotional debt, that are like inbuilt or like not dealt with, and there's been like, people let go or not dealing with that emotional,
That's the first thing I was thinking when you said emotional debt, is like, oh, I remember that time where the company laid off 1,000 engineers from Brazil that were like the smartest, most amazing people I'd ever worked with. And they totally shouldn't have gotten laid off, but the company did. And then you've got like survivor's remorse of like guilt. Well, they didn't fire me because I'm here in the US, so they only fired Brazil. But like, you knew those people and they had families and they were competent and amazing and they shouldn't have gotten fired. And that sucked. And that was like trauma. Like we all felt like we can't trust the company after that. Like, am I next? Am I next? And that's not a good feeling.
I think it's also like a symptom, people leaving after many people have been laid off because they don't trust the employer anymore, or they don't feel hurt. And, or when they hear there's going to be people laid off, they will leave even before, because it's like, this is not a good sign. So that's very,
I know a lady that just got laid off that told me that she doesn't have a family. She's flexible. She's got money saved up. Being laid off doesn't affect her. She's actually happy. Like, oh, I got the free time now to like think about where I want to go with my life. I'm like, that is a great problem to have. And she looked at me and she's like, I wish I had a husband and kids. I was like, oh yeah, well, that's why I can't just run off and just be laid off, because I have a family to support. I can't do that. And so everybody has different circumstances. So I was looking at your website right before we called so we could kind of like, focus on the things that you're passionate about. I know you were talking about your mission and being aligned to your mission. What is Datatribe Collective? Tell me more about that.
Well, Datatribe it started actually a year and a half ago. I was doing mentoring, and I think I offered on LinkedIn like for free mentoring data engineers.
Wow.
And I got a lot of feedback, a lot of messages, and I started mentoring a bunch of people. And then I'm like, okay, this is not scalable. Like, I can't mentor everyone. And then I was thinking, we don't have a community like this in Finland, which is like vendor agnostic. or not like just a tool user group, or
Right.
just a place or community. So then I started this idea, and I had like these few active people who also felt this was their calling. So we started this together.
To be mentors.
No, it started like as a community. Like we
Okay.
started
Yeah.
a community, and then of course mentoring was part of it. But then we had this peer-to-peer learning aspect also. Like other mentors can join, and other people who want to learn can join, and we can all learn together. And sort of, it was like vibe community building, not vibe coding, but like something that I felt was missing. And then it started from there. And now we had our first 4-week training batch started like 2 weeks ago. And
Wow.
it's free, and it's on Discord. We have on our GitHub, we have like a free training curriculum.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So we want to sort of bridge that gap between unemployed or career shifters or juniors who are looking for employment in data, and sort of build those skills, because that's another issue that traditional education is missing, the sort of what employers are looking for. So
yeah, and it's moving so fast, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm going through a Databricks course, and I'm familiar with the concepts of what a solution like Databricks might solve, but I wasn't familiar with Databricks at all. And there was so much stuff in there. Like, for example, I'm going through the GenAI training, and it was talking about how they need to come up with their own models to be able to combat fraud, because people were using image generation to make fake accidents and try to get like insurance fraud and insurance claims. And they showed a photo that looked like an accident. It was like, this was completely generated in like 20 minutes with an image generation tool, and somebody could use this to send it to their insurance company saying, hey, I need $14,000 payout for this vehicle accident that I got. And I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't even think that somebody would use it that way. And so it's like, it's constantly changing and evolving. So that's awesome. And the fact that you're doing it for free, did you say? What's that all about? I don't meet that many people doing stuff for free. So I'm curious, like, if you could share, how's that work?
Well, I think we all feel better if we give a little bit of ourselves. Mm-hmm. This is something that is like very sort of different thinking that we have been taught. Like you have to be productive and sort of monetize everything. Yeah. And, you have to make, of course you need to make a living, but, after, when you have, when you're safe, you have employment, you still have time to help others. A comparison to me is like when you climb on a cliff and you reach the cliff and you get up, you turn back and help the others, coming also. So you don't just like leave. That's just like, I feel that, communities are something that is very needed in this world, especially when things are becoming a bit volatile and like it's very, the world is getting scary. I think people are very individualistic in the Western culture. And I think the community stuff has been sort of dying. I don't know. It's also interesting, like in religion, people who go to church or who don't go to church, or in Finland, it's like becoming more agnostic in that sense that the church is not, as popular as it used to be. So people are having this like space that, is missing. Where do I go? Where's my community?
Right. Yeah. So like, for us, I don't know what it was like in Finland, but for us, when COVID happened in the United States, my state particularly, and also other states, were not able to have physical gatherings. So churches that were not used to doing digital channels and weren't used to streaming, or like really relied on in-person attendance, struggled and had to adapt and had to transform. But it also changed our viewing behaviors. So people that would physically go to church, now they couldn't. So you had to ask yourself, do I really want to get up and turn this video on and still participate? Or do I want to just say, I really just liked going and getting out of the house for an hour on a Sunday. So like, maybe it's not as fun for me to do it, like, watch it. Maybe I don't get the same. It's like when you go to a rock concert, it's not the same as when you watch the video on the TV. When you're there, you're like feeling the crowd and feeling the music,
the
and
energy.
you're like in it. And when you're not in a physical church and you're just doing it on the internet, it's not the same experience. Yeah. So it's definitely evolved a lot.
That's true. And we're also doing live meetups, and that is like very it's getting really, really popular in Helsinki. Like we have a meetup tomorrow. I think it's our 3rd or 4th live meetup. And it's like, I think 70 people and 27 on the wait list.
Wow.
It's almost 100 people.
Oh my gosh. I do events, I get 3 people. I'm like, thank you, Mom, Dad, for showing up.
But yeah, so there's a really big need for this. People really, I feel the need to have a community. So data is a wonderful, topic.
Yeah, so one of the things I noticed when I was taking this Databricks course is like I'm taking a certification for being a data engineer. So like the tasks are very specific to that role. And I have not done that officially in my role. I've just dabbled in it. And as I'm taking the classes, I'm like, oh, this is why I'm not a data engineer, because this is not what I want to do all day. This is, it's not, it doesn't motivate me like other things do. And I'm old enough to know, like when my fires go off, I'm like, ooh, graph. Like I could do graph all day, but like data engineer, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to write any more SQL. Please don't make me write SQL.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, and like the people that are saying, hey, I want to learn or whatever, like, do they need to be a formalized data engineer if they're a dabbler? Like how much do they need to know to be able to fit in, I guess is the question.
We have a lot of, like, we have really senior folks as well. And then we have more juniors, or just like knowing Excel, and looking for like, how do I make this, these skills more valuable in this other context? And it's like it's a journey. Everybody is on a different phase. Some people enjoy teaching. Some people enjoy, just finding other people to learn with.
Right.
So everybody is welcome. It's like, we don't like judge.
Yeah. So when you're talking about like balancing, your home life and your work life and your hobbies and your passions and everything, that's something that I think about a lot too, because Butterfly Bytes is not my full-time job. I have a full-time job as a consultant, and it's very demanding. It's 24 hours a day sometimes, because I'm working with global clients. So I have to choose when I spend my time and how I invest in different things. And so because you're giving, what's your measure, or like, how do you decide, yes, I can do this meetup or involve myself in this coaching, or no, I've taken too many, I'm overburdened? Like, how do you decide that?
Well, first it was hard because I was alone, and then I had like some people helping me out, and then we became a team, so it got a bit easier, and then we've been growing. So I think now we have maybe 10 really active people who are also building these meetups, and they're doing it without me. So I'm not this cult leader.
Yes.
It's our community. My whole message is like, this is not me, even though I started this, but it's everybody's community, and everybody can organize and step up. So I think that is super, because like I see people, they are so good at what they do, and like it's just really beautiful when people show up and build something together.
Yeah, community is a big thing. I think I just got a message. It's fine. Community is a big thing that I realized. So I've always kind of been, I think I call myself like an extroverted introvert. Like I can be outgoing, I can be friendly, but maybe as I've gotten older, I realized like my natural tendency is to be more of a homebody and kind of like be a little bit more retreated. And my circle of closeness is very, very tight. It's like, it's always been that way. So I thought that I could say, I don't need to be around people. I'm fine. I'll be a hermit and work remote. Like I could do it. It's fine. But because I've been doing it so long, when I went to that Day-to-Day Texas conference, that was one of the things that Chauncey and I were so surprised about. We were like, we like people. This feels
like
good.
Certain kind of people.
And these are all nerdy people. Yay. This is great.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then We had a tragedy, unfortunately, in my town. I don't know if it made international news, but there was this hurricane that was unprecedented and caused like biblical level flooding and just so many. It was just so horrible, like dead bodies in trees because the rivers flew
Yeah,
so
I
high. I
read
mean, it
about
was
the
just
story. That's
unbelievable.
awful.
And so, in the aftermath, when it first happened, and I was able to like go outside, there's no phone reception, there's no internet, there's no way to talk to anybody, you can't do anything. So what I found myself doing is just like strapping my baby onto my chest and walking out into the street and looking for other humans. Hey, who's okay? Who needs
Yeah.
something? And just walking around and grabbing people on your street. And I was like, wow, community is really important because gosh,
Yeah.
what if you're going to starve? What if you don't have like your faculties like shut down? Some people didn't have, they were like blocked where they couldn't get any resources for like days and even weeks. And like people are drowning, people are starving,
Yeah.
people are freezing to death. And if you don't have a community, you're really stuck. And I was like, okay, I need to like connect with humans more. I need to do this. I need to not shy away. It's important.
Yeah. I think crisis often sets that, like people realize like we need each other. We are
Yeah.
also tribal, by nature. So there's a lot of good benefits to have real people, and like who you can trust and sort of I think the trend is now going to change from this like individualistic culture to more like community and collective mindset because, economy is probably going to get more local, like let's
Yes.
10 years, 20 years because like of the global issues. So people are going to rely on their communities because you can actually trust more, the locals. And it's also interesting to see how, how that will change the world.
Do they do like honor based like food market stands, farm stands where you live? Like where like a farmer who has. So like for example, we've got so many people where I live that are chicken people, and I've never been around chicken people, but there's a lot of chicken people here where I live. So like you can just drive around and just like chickens are like literally in the street because they got out of the pen and there's just chickens everywhere.
Are chicken people who have chicken?
Yes, and they are obsessed with their chickens. It's yes. They have an abundance of eggs, so they will have like a stand where they will put the eggs there, and then they said like come, and they'll just have honor system. And if you want some eggs, you go and you drop a couple bucks, but there's nobody watching you to see did you really put the money in. So people will do that around here in our community because it's a very rural, smaller community. But I'm wondering, is that a thing in Finland?
It could be, but like where I live, it's not that rural. So like it's probably like depending, what season it is, but for sure, like if it's like fall, people are gathering their apples that they're not going to eat all of them. They're just going to leave, like you can just take, or like for sure, we have these like farmers markets and you can go there and buy. But I think it's going less and less. I think it's because we have these supermarkets and like they are stating the prices, what they pay to the producers. I would like to change that. I was actually looking into like building open source software, but then I found this community who have already done that from Australia. And I was thinking like, I need to do this in Finland. I just don't have the resources right now. But this is like local food production is such an important thing in the world. Oh, and we are now building with Datatribe our first like sort of good with data project. It's like this AgroTech app, open source for small farmers. But this is like for globally because we can, for certain plants and fruits, we can calculate the growth days, which is like when the average temperature of a day is over +5 Celsius degrees. I don't know what that is. Then you have like one growth day. And then like after an X amount of growth days, you can like the plant starts to bloom or like, these kind of pests are going to come and, you can sort of predict by those days. So I was thinking like we make this app, a web app, which is free. So all the, small farmers, like let's say a corn farmer in India or a tomato farmer in Kenya, we can just build those because we can have the data, the weather data for the like certain area, and then we can count those growth days and we can like make this localized.
Yay.
So
I
that's
love
what
it. I would like to tie that to a thermostat, because one of the things that I struggle with is we have a greenhouse, and it's fantastic when the weather is nice, but if it gets over 80 degrees and you have the door closed, I have killed plants. I have like little babies right now that are germinating, that are just little sprouts, and I've killed 2 or 3 of them just because, like, oh my gosh, I just had the door closed. And so if I had something connected to a thermostat that would say like, okay, it's going to be, or even text me, or like send me a message and say, you better turn the solar fan on because your plants are going to die today.
The idea
even like, I want to take a vacation, but I'm afraid to, because I don't want to be gone for 3 days and potentially everything dies. So like, I'm all about the AgroTech. I think that's a fantastic idea. And there's lots of data.
Yeah. And it's also like, we can help a lot of people just, it's like simple stuff like that. What to do that day, or help people.
Food is medicine. Food is our fuel.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be like, anything, super amazing. It's just like, has to be practical and helpful.
I love it.
Great. Yeah.
It's another thing I struggle with. Like, so last year I grew tomatoes and peppers, but I just started them at the same time and I treated them the same. And then like the tomatoes grew, the peppers didn't grow. And so when the tomatoes were done, I just thought, oh, well, what happened? I guess my peppers didn't grow. But this year, as I'm germinating them, I'm looking at the seeds packet and I'm like, what? The peppers take like another 2 months. Like, oh my gosh, I pulled the peppers out and thinking they were dead. So I was treating all the plants the same because I just didn't know they need different things. And I'm inexperienced, but I'm curious. So I try things and I make mistakes. So that would be a good thing too, of like what to do.
Yeah. I mean, learning, like plants are not like, if they come to my house, they're like, no, because they know they will die. But like, I have like my husband and my kids who are now growing an avocado tree from an avocado seed. And it took like maybe 6 weeks to start, like, it broke. And then there's like this, and I was like, wow. But like, I was just thinking like, it will have like an existential crisis because it's in Finland. It will never bear fruit here. I mean, like,
that's why I don't grow lemons. I want to grow lemons and limes so bad, but I just know it just won't. It just can't.
I know. And I'm like, I felt sorry for that tree because, if
you put it in a controlled environment, I think things do great, but there has to be a controlled environment. And that's hard to do unless you have like a whole system, which people do, they do that.
Yeah. I think it's like becoming our pet because like we have to like,
I love that. I love that. I've done a lot of science experiments actually when I was a kid with different plants. And we did one with like different music, like do plants respond to different music? And like, it kind of seemed like it responded better to classical, but I've also grown plants where you could take 10 seeds and they're the same plant and they're in the same condition. 3 of them are huge and some of them are wilty. And so the conditions, the music probably wasn't what made one grow more than the other. It probably was just that seed's DNA, or maybe. But, it was like 4th grade, science project or something. So I didn't get too detailed on that, but that's awesome. So what else? What's your background? Did you always want to do this kind of stuff, or did you fall into it? Or, can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think I have reinvented myself more times than Cher and Madonna together.
That's awesome.
Like, I started as a flight attendant.
What?
Yeah.
Gosh, it's so funny. I just bought this dress and I called it my flight attendant dress. I wore my flight attendant dress. Amazing. Look, I wore my flight attendant dress just for you.
It's perfect.
I feel like I should ask you if you need another like cocktail or a blanket.
Yeah, I did that. I lived in UK for a year and then Abu Dhabi in United Arab Emirates for 2 years.
Wow. Doing the flight attendant thing.
Yeah.
Flying. Wow.
Yeah, flying for 3 years. Mm-hmm. And then I moved back to Finland. I studied acting for a year. And then I moved to Estonia, and then I started studying economics at the university. Mm-hmm. And then I became a payroll analyst at the same time. And I didn't finish my studies there, but I continued them later. But then I became like, I think payroll was like my first like sort of real job after my flight attendant years, in a way that it made me like really stop and like really, get into it. I did that for, well, I did just a payroll analyst. It was like 1 year, but then I became like a systems specialist and project coordinator and project manager. I was 8 years in that field, and I learned so much of like how, like, I was working with data without like understanding I was working with data, because I was doing all these implementations, and like I had to, write the integration, mapping the data, like everything.
Right.
So I understood a lot, like, about data, but most of all, I understood a lot about business processes and systems thinking and project management and people.
Cool.
So, and change management was like probably the biggest, because everything
Right.
is about change management.
Yeah, because nothing ever stays the same, right?
Yeah. But then I burned out because I was very young, in my 20s, and then I felt like I had a mandate in that like company that I could like sort of develop any kind of process within the company, and they were just like trusting me with a lot. So when
Right.
you're in your 20s, you're like, oh my God, you're carrying like almost the CEO level pressure, because you're not
Mhm.
aware, really what is like enough
Right.
necessarily. You want to do a good job and you want to be
Yes.
responsible. So I was just like, it was a good learning experience, but definitely I burned out. Then I started thinking, like, I went through therapy and sort of digging, why do I
Yeah.
do things? Well,
Mm-hmm.
what makes me think like this, and sort of understanding generational trauma and family history and stuff like that. So I
Oh,
went really deep. Um, and then came on the from on the other side, I decided that I need to start learning programming, because as a project manager I was always too deep in the technical stuff that I needed
right.
to, because I really loved it. So then I decided, okay, maybe I'll do this back end part next. And also I studied photography, and I became a photographer. I worked as a live music photographer, and also I
Wow.
was in an ad agency for a year. I ended up also directing and filming music videos for Finnish artists. And so I worked in the Finnish artist scene, live music scene, for events and festivals for quite a while. And then after, I think, COVID started, then I decided, okay, I need to finish my degree. And then I actually pivoted into IT, and so it was like IT and business, which was my background, sort of.
Right.
So I had like Bachelor of Business Administration with business information systems as my, major. But
Right.
then soon, well, the day I graduated, I found out I was pregnant with my second son. And then I started looking for jobs, going back to the job market. And
Right.
then I told in the interviews that I was pregnant, which I didn't
Oh, I
need to.
was just going to ask you, did you do that? What
I
did
did do
you,
that.
how did it come out? Did it work out or did it not work out?
No, no.
I didn't tell my boss that I was about to have my last baby until I was 8 months pregnant. And that's because I was on Zoom and nobody even noticed that I was getting fat. Just had a baby down there. I was like, oh, by
I
the way, I need
know.
to take vacation. They're like, wow, I was like, I'm having a baby. So because I was afraid I would get discriminated against.
Well, I surely did, for sure. But you can't prove that, can you? If
No.
you're in an interview and you tell that, but like, yeah. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna be so good that nobody can like,
Right.
not hire me. And then
Right.
I had my second son. The whole time I studied when I was pregnant, and when I was home for a year after I studied. And because in Finland we stay home a lot longer, usually, before
Yeah, I'm
returning
so
to work.
jealous. It's
I
hard to
know,
go
that's like
back. Like
such
six
a
weeks.
privilege.
Tick tock.
No, that's so horrible.
Get rid of that baby. Get back to
Feeling
work.
all the moms with that one.
I'm so
So
blessed
yeah,
I get to work from home, but I did not have to lose my child.
yeah,
But my first and second child, I had to put them in daycare immediately, and it was very tragic. I hated it.
it's very because it's like not. It does
It
well.
doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right
Yeah,
to be away from your child. And but now my son is 2, and I'm like ready to take breaks from him because he's just
yeah.
destructor.
But
I
that's
want
the
to ask
challenge.
you about, you mentioned this comment about generational curses. Are you consciously trying, since you're a parent, do you consciously try to shape your children to like be different than what you went through? If you're like, if there's a generational curse that you're breaking, do you consciously try to do that with your child, or is it just with you? Or like, what does that even look like for you?
Yeah, I think well, I think I've done a lot of work before having them, just, like in my personal life. So
Right.
I like sort of became more self-aware
Yeah.
before having them. So I also stopped drinking, I think 15 years ago. No.
Oh, so it was me that was drinking at the
Yeah,
day-to-day
it was you.
Texas, not you.
So yeah, so
Sounds
things
about
like
right.
that, like sort of which have been like bad in my family history, sort of trying
Right.
to avoid those or like stop things.
Yep.
Um, yeah, so I think none of us are perfect as parents, but I think what I'm trying to do differently is I want to make my kids feel seen and like
Hmm.
have their um, help them deal with the world, like sort of
Yep.
narrating sometimes if they're feeling, you know, whatever they're feeling, or I can see as a mom they're going through something. I can help
Yes.
narrate that, and I can help make them aware, you know, more. I think it's you can I think it's very there's a lot of philosophies and, you know, things that they're telling parents you should do this or you should do that, but I think it's hard as a parent. I would not go to tell another parent, necessarily how to deal with your kids,
Right.
unless it's like something, that I should report. but,
So
but
sometimes when I see a new parent in the grocery store and their baby is screaming their head off, and I know because I've had enough babies that baby is hungry or tired or whatever,
yeah,
and I want to go and say, I just think they just need a bottle, or I just think you need to pick your baby up. They're screaming so loud the whole grocery store can hear you. I will not. I will not go. I am
exactly.
not. I am not going to be a Karen. I know people do it. I won't. Not me.
What I do, I always give them a smile. Like
Or
I've
I'll
been
say,
there.
you're doing great. It's
Yeah,
hard. It'll
exactly.
get
Like,
easier. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like for the moms and dads who are tired at that point, you
Yeah.
know,
When you don't
and
know
also,
what you're doing either, especially when it's your first kid. So I have a generational thing. So two things that I thought of immediately when you said that, and I think you said bias, not curse. So I said curse. So that's my interpretation of it was a curse. My mom was so focused on achievement. I don't know if like it was just her generation where women's lib and feminism. Like she was like, I am not staying home. I'm going to work. I'm going to make all the money. I'm the breadwinner. I'm the boss. I'm going to be the top of everything. And
mhm,
so emotions and cuddling and home and cooking and in the kitchen and being like feminine and a mom, it just did not happen. My mom just didn't do it. And I didn't realize I missed that until I was older. And like as an adult, as a wife, I've been learning how to cook and I'm making things from scratch. And I'm in the kitchen and my daughter's with me and she's like, Mom, let's make a pie. And I'm like, oh, let's do it. And I'm doing all these things with her that my mom didn't do with me. And I'm consciously
yeah,
trying to pour into her femininity because I miss that. And I don't want my daughter to be ambitious like me because I don't feel like it put me down the right road. I feel like I would have made different choices if I hadn't felt so like desperate to survive. Because that's what my mom made me think by that is like,
mm,
you're going to starve. You better, achieve and make as much money as possible. You're going to starve. And
mm,
I just don't want to instill that fear in my kids. And I also want them to feel like you're talking about narrating emotions. I was never allowed to be upset. So I had to stuff it. And so as an adult, I've had to learn how to untie that knot
yeah,
and allow myself to feel emotions. So I don't want to do that with my kids, like even last night, my daughter was not wanting to go to bed and she's screaming and throwing a fit. And I wanted to just yell at her to just shut up, just go to bed. But I know
mm,
like that's not going to help her. So I like rubber face. It's okay, baby. You're just tired. And like, she immediately was like, thanks, mom. She's out,
yeah. Also, like sometimes, of course, things happen. Like you're tired yourself, and you
Right.
do that, but you scream and like go to bed. Um, But I think the more important is like you learn how to say sorry or you show them
Yes.
I made a mistake. Because I think our parents in like our generation's parents necessarily never said they're sorry to kids, or like sort of
Yeah. Why is that?
like acknowledge
You wanted to
that.
project this like this confidence or this like toughness
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah. So I think it's important to like show that you made a mistake. You were not supposed to say that. And usually, it's like that's also okay. But like just not be quiet after, if you're gonna scream at your kids. But like if you make a mistake, own it and move on, like
Yeah.
sort of that's what families do, I think. That you sort of share all those human aspects as well. We're not perfect.
I think it goes back to like kind of full circle of what we were talking about at the beginning of this conversation of like bridge skills, because those type of conflict resolution and being able to like understand how to communicate better in difficult situations also comes up in work. And so I've been going through these leadership trainings and, different things of like assume positive intent and like, ask curious questions and different things that you can do when there's discourse within the team or somebody got mad or somebody misunderstood somebody. And so I think those skills that you're talking about as a parent of admitting that you made a mistake or just saying like, hey, my fault in this was this. I should have expressed this, or I didn't realize you didn't know this and I didn't give you the context, whatever it is. But when you acknowledge your own mistakes, then it kind of diffuses the tension. Not always. There's some people that are like, good, you are wrong. Good. Yeah. They never own their part, but it also helps you within your own heart, right? To like just calm down a little
just
bit.
Wonder how the world would be if everybody would be okay to say that I made a mistake or I was wrong or I didn't know, or because so much ego is running the world.
Yeah, well, I think it that question that I just mentioned of like, why were our parents that way? They wanted to appear infallible. They need to project this image of perfection. And, maybe our managers or maybe our leaders, the VPs of the world and all the executives, maybe they feel like they have to be that way to gain the trust, or I don't know, but I'm glad I'm not in a role where I have to be perfect, because I'm not perfect. And none of us are.
Yeah. Another thing is like we're all crazy, so we might as well just acknowledge it. I think the people who claim they're not crazy, they're liars and you can't trust them.
Yes. So let's see. So like as we wrap up, what if somebody's listening and they're curious about data engineering, or they want to be involved in what you have to offer with Datatribe Collective, how can they learn more?
We have a Discord group, but also on LinkedIn, we have our group site there. And under my profile, you can find all these cool stuff and communities if you want to join. So
that's fantastic. Well, I hope we get to meet again at another conference. I'm actually thinking about trying to submit a speaker's topic, but I really want to, for next year, I really want to pick something that's going to be meaningful for the audience. And I'm a little intimidated with how like deep the technical knowledge is. And so I want to make sure it's in my wheelhouse and would actually be interesting content. So I don't have the idea yet, but I'm thinking.
For sure, you should do that. We'll see. And Datatribe is such an awesome event. And
yes,
doing a wonderful job there.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it was fantastic meeting you. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for everyone for listening to this episode of Butterfly Bytes.